But the other day, I just sort of was questioning my own death in a way that sort of weird, overthinking psychology and philosophy nerds do, reflecting on my mortality. And the thought came to me, and it's like, it's one of those situations where I don't feel like I created that thought. I feel like it just slipped into my mind through my subconscious or whatever kind of source or whatever spiritual terminology you want to use. And the thought was, if I died today, what would I regret most? And the next thought that came was that the thing I would regret most is the amount of unexpressed love that I didn't give to the world and to the people around me, and through the things that I did. The thought of, what accolades I got in sport, or, how much status I accrued, or how much money I earned, or the material things I possessed, or even the experiences I had, that stuff didn't come up. It was if you died now, you would be sad because you hadn't expressed all the love that you could possibly express in your life. And that's maybe because, I'm a 20-year-old and I haven't really done anything yet, and there's a future in front of me that hopefully contains a healthy marriage and children, and that's sort of like the core of the romantic and fatherly love in my life. But also I think it applies to everything that I do. Going through life with this compassionate, empathetic, loving philosophy could be really powerful. And I think about it in terms of my friendships as well, the platonic love involved in that, and the work that I do, and the way that I want to affect people positively, whether that's in the basketball world or through the podcast or through studying psychology and learning about mental health and all these kind of things. And it sort of, I think, now you might be able to tell me if I'm right or wrong on this, but I think Lex Friedman had this idea once, or it's come through a lot of his work, that he said, can you do everything out of love? He asked that question. Can you do everything in your life from a place of love? And that doesn't necessarily mean it's easy or beautiful or fun, because love can be painful, man. Love can cut deep. It's the maybe deepest human emotion. On the other side of it is a lot of pain. And then I thought about Bukowski's quote that I think is very powerful, where he said, "Find what you love in life and let it kill you." And that's a great way to die. Imagine that, dying, because we're all going to die anyway. I think the most heroic way to die is to die giving as much love as you possibly can to the world. And I know that sounds a bit woo-woo and a bit abstract, but it resonates with me, man. So, what do you think?
Why do you feel like this is so important to you? Like, especially kind of after your experience last Friday. Like, why do you think that you're not kind of giving love to the world?
Because the human ego doesn't have that same priority. The human ego wants to do everything for its own gain, I guess, and to maintain its own control, and for that feeling of status, that feeling of power, But when you look past the ego and you come into contact with who you really are, that being, that spirit, that version of you, that higher self, wants to do everything from a place of unconditional love, and maybe that is the strongest power in the universe. Maybe that is what the opposite of evil is. And I think it's important to know where your actions are really coming from on a spiritual level. And that sounds kind of weird for a 20-year-old male to be saying in the 21st century, but it's true. I could go and be an athlete and do it out of insecurity and a drive to prove people wrong, which certainly has been a part of my development. But I could also do it for the love of the game, and to treat basketball like an art form. Like, I love it when I step into that mindset of, go, this is a beautiful thing. This is a beautiful pattern of play. It involves physical and mental development, and it involves a kind of fusion between you and your teammates to be one kind of organism that goes out and gets the job done and performs in a spectacular fashion. When I view it through that lens, rather than the lens of I'm going to go and dominate my competition in an angry, sort of aggressive manner, and I view it as an art form and something to sort of manifest beauty and love in a kind of creative form, then that's just a better way to live life. I think it might sound very naive and optimistic and overly optimistic, I guess, but it's just been some reflections that I've had.
I think it's something that really takes your whole life to contribute, and I think it might be harder at our age because we don't have as much love to move around. We don't have as much love to give, and so.
Why would you say that is, though?
Resources and just being in the world for longer and knowing about other people. The most we can kind of do is kind of give love to a community, or to make a stranger's day better. But I don't think we have like huge resources to contribute towards like charity and decrease unnecessary suffering and to inspire. Although we maybe do to a small degree.
But are you in that idea of resources? Are you thinking about purely like monetary, like money? Like we can't pay thousands of pounds to charity, or we can't like support a family right now. Which like there's an element of that. There's an element of caregiving in that. But maybe like to find love, you can look low. You can look lower and lower and lower, and be like, well, maybe I can express love through the way that I listen to you in this conversation, and the way that I genuinely speak and act in the way that I do from a spirit of compassion and genuinely wanting the best for you, and apply that not just to our friendship, but all my friendships and the different sort of social relationships I have out in the world. It's kind of like that's a divine way to be in the world. So when Carl Jung said people struggle to find God because they don't look low enough, they're looking to the sky to find this moral divine being that sort of surveys the land and tells you how to live. But maybe God's in the way that you interact with your loved ones and strangers, and the way that you do your work, and the philosophy that you ground your work within. I don't know, man. I'm just playing with sort of abstract spiritual ideas, but it resonates.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's one of Jung's most powerful quotes. You don't find God because you don't look low enough. You could think about that your whole life. And yeah, I think it applies to this context. There's this like 60-year-old woman on like who lives quite near me, and she's like a recovering alcoholic, and I used to see her at the coffee shop, but now I don't go there anymore, but I still see her about, and I think I'm like the only person in that day that listens to her problems for 10 minutes every morning. We happen to meet at the exact place that is on the same road like every time in the morning, and that's my contribution. Like I think that's one of my contributions. I think we need to do our part